The crystalline spires of Zephyria Prime hummed with an energy that had sustained the ethereal collective for over 10,000 cycles. High Archon Veltar floated before the sacred archive, his translucent form pulsing with the accumulated wisdom of eons. Today marked another pilgrimage season, when lesser species from across the galaxy would journey here seeking enlightenment from beings they considered divine. Another delegation of primitives approaches. High Archon, announced Subarchon Crixna, her melodic voice carrying undertones of superiority. These call themselves humans and claim to seek audience with the Eternal Ones. Veltar's luminescent eyes dimmed with mild interest. Humans. He had encountered references to them in recent cycles, a young species that had somehow mastered faster-than-light travel, despite lacking the crystalline neural networks that made such achievements possible for civilized beings. Curious but ultimately insignificant. Grant them the standard audience, Veltar decreed. Let them witness our glory and return to their primitive worlds with tales of our magnificence. The human delegation entered the grand chamber with an irreverence that immediately unsettled the assembled ethereals. Unlike other species who prostrated themselves before the crystalline thrones, these bipedal creatures walked upright, their dark eyes scanning the architecture with what appeared to be recognition. Leading them was a female with graying hair and weathered features. She wore simple clothing devoid of the elaborate ceremonial garments typical of pilgrims. When she spoke, her voice carried an authority that made several junior ethereals recoil. I am Dr. Elena Vasquez, representing the Terran Archaeological Expedition. We've come seeking answers about the progenitor civilization that once inhabited this sector. Veltar's form flickered with annoyance. You stand before the ethereal collective, young ones. We are the inheritors of this sacred realm, blessed by the progenitors before they transcended to higher dimensions. Speak respectfully of the progenitors didn't transcend anywhere, Dr. Vasquez interrupted, producing a small device that projected a holographic display. They died out approximately 12,000 years ago during what your histories call the Great Silence. The chamber erupted in harmonious discord as dozens of ethereal voices merged in outrage. Veltar raised himself higher, his form blazing with indignant energy. Blasphemy! The progenitors were eternal beings of pure, they were human. The two words fell like stones into still water, creating ripples of stunned silence. Dr. Vasquez activated her device, and suddenly the chamber filled with images, archaeological evidence, genetic scans, cultural artifacts. The assembled ethereals watched in growing horror as their most sacred beliefs crumbled before irrefutable proof. Project Elysium, Dr. Vasquez explained, her voice steady despite the magnitude of her revelation, launched from Earth approximately 14,000 years ago, carrying 10 million human colonists in cryogenic suspension. They established a galactic civilization that lasted nearly 2 millennia before a cascade failure in their quantum network caused societal collapse. The holographic display showed familiar architectural patterns, the same crystalline technology the ethereals considered divine gifts. But now they could see the truth. These were human designs, human innovations, human achievements. The survivors, Dr. Vasquez continued, scattered across the galaxy. Some maintained their biological forms and eventually became the various humanoid species you've encountered. Others, she gestured toward the floating ethereals, were transformed by exposure to quantum radiation from the failing network. Crixna's voice trembled with disbelief. You're saying we are descendants of humans, modified by the very technology your ancestors created. Dr. Vasquez's expression softened slightly. The divine visions your people experience? Genetic memories, the sacred knowledge you guard so carefully, fragments of human science and philosophy preserved in your altered DNA. Veltar felt something he had never experienced in his 10,000 cycles of existence. Doubt. The certainty that had defined his entire being wavered as he processed the implications. But we are superior beings. We possess abilities beyond what? Dr. Vasquez asked gently. You can manipulate energy and matter through quantum fields. So can we. You possess vast knowledge, so do we. You've achieved immortality through consciousness transfer. We've achieved it through medical technology. She paused, letting her words sink in. The only difference is that you forgot where you came from. The silence stretched across eons of shattered faith. Finally, Subarchon Crixna spoke, her voice barely a whisper.
What
What do you want from us? Dr. Vasquez smiled, and for the first time, the ethereal saw something familiar in her expression. The same curiosity and wonder they had once associated with divine inspiration. To welcome you home, to rebuild what was lost, to show you that the universe is far more incredible when you don't need to be gods to appreciate its beauty. She gestured to her companions, and the ethereals noticed for the first time the diversity among them, beings that looked remarkably similar to species across the galaxy that had also made pilgrimages here over the millennia. We're all human, Dr. Vasquez said simply. Every species that's ever sought your wisdom, every civilization that's ever looked to the stars, we're all children of Earth, scattered to the winds by catastrophe and changed by time. But the spark that drove us to explore, to question, to reach for something greater, that's still burning in all of us. Veltar lowered himself until he floated at eye level with the human woman. For the first time in 10,000 cycles, he felt small, but somehow that didn't diminish him. It connected him to something infinitely larger. How do we move forward with this knowledge? He asked. Dr. Vasquez extended her hand, a gesture that triggered deep genetic memories of connection and cooperation. The same way humans always have. Together, one step at a time, reaching for the stars. As Veltar reached out with his energy form to touch her outstretched hand, he realized that perhaps being human was the most divine thing of all.